Your car has been sitting in the sun for 2 hours. You open the door, and it hits you like an oven. The steering wheel is untouchable. The seat burns through your clothes, and you crank the AC to max, only to get air that feels like a hairdryer pointed at your face. Your AC probably is not broken. Nobody ever showed you how to use it. Not your mechanic, not the dealership, not the car manual. And your mechanic likes it that way, because every summer they charge a couple $100 for a refrigerant recharge that half the time was never the issue. I found 10 tricks that fix this, and I am counting them down from 10 to 1. Trick 1 is a $0 technique that resets your AC and makes it blow ice cold again. No parts, no tools, no appointment. I saved it for the end because every trick before it makes trick 1 work even better. And one of the 10 is literally a single button on your dashboard. Trick 10 is for the worst case, where the AC is completely dead, the compressor is gone, and the repair costs more than the car. Before AC became standard in the 1960s, every driver survived summer without it, and some of those methods still work. The 260 rule means 2 windows down at 60 miles per hour, creating a cross breeze that flushes the cabin. It works until outside temperatures pass 95 degrees. Then you are just blowing hot air at yourself faster. In a humid climate, zero relief no matter how fast you drive. Older cars had wing windows, small triangular panes at the front of each door angled to scoop air onto your face. They were standard from the 1930s through the 60s, and disappeared once AC became universal, which tells you how effective they actually were. Those homemade car coolers on social media, the styrofoam box with ice and a fan, mostly fail because of physics. Your freezer pulled heat out of water to freeze it, and that heat got dumped into your kitchen. Put that ice in your car, and it absorbs heat as it melts, but the total absorbed equals what the freezer already removed. You moved heat, you did not create cold. As the ice melts, it dumps humidity into the cabin, and sweating only cools you when the air is dry enough for evaporation. So a melting cooler in a sealed car actually makes cooling harder. One guy on a forum said it best. I spent $20 on ice, 2 hours building this thing, and ended up hotter and wetter than I started. If you have a baby in a rear-facing car seat, the back seat can run 10 to 15 degrees hotter than the front. The nozzle routes cold air to the back for about $70, but thousands of parents swear by a pool noodle, which is naturally hollow. Cut it to 4 to 6 feet, slit one side to clip over the front vent, zip tie it in place, and aim the open end at the back seat. A USB fan inside boosts airflow, though attaching a duct to one vent changes pressure across all the others. No workaround replaces functioning AC in real heat. If the repair costs more than the car, think hard about keeping it where you live. But if your AC does work and is just not cold enough, the next 9 tricks are for you. And trick 9 is something mechanics see constantly but almost never explain. Trick 9 is the compressor clutch gap, and it drives people insane because it makes your AC seem possessed. It works perfectly in the morning, but randomly dies in the afternoon, blows ice cold on the highway, but goes warm the second you stop at a red light. You take it to a shop, they test everything, find nothing wrong, and send you home. 2 days later, same thing. Your compressor has an electromagnetic clutch that connects it to the engine. When the AC kicks on, a magnet pulls a metal plate against a spinning pulley, and the gap between them must stay between 0.014 and 0.026 inches. That is incredibly small. Over years of use, every engagement wears away friction material. The gap slowly widens, and once it passes the limit, things get strange. The clutch works when cool and fails when hot because electromagnets weaken as temperature rises. When a borderline gap meets a hot engine bay in the afternoon, that small drop in magnetic force is enough to stop the clutch from grabbing. The AC dies, the car cools overnight, the magnet recovers, and it works perfectly the next morning. Seems completely random, but becomes entirely predictable once you understand this. A clicking or clunking when the AC turns on is another clue. The plate slamming across a gap that is too wide. If that sound gets louder over time, the gap is growing. And sometimes the clutch still engages but slips under load, spinning the compressor just slow enough to provide weak cooling. This mimics low refrigerant perfectly, which is why the shop sells you a $100 recharge when the real problem is a worn clutch plate needing a $10 shim adjustment. Keep trick 9 in mind when we get to trick 2, because a lot of mechanics skip the cheap fix there too. Honda Civics from 2006 through 2011 are notorious for this. One owner on a Honda forum wrote that 3 different shops told him the compressor was fine, and he was about to sell the car, until someone mentioned the clutch gap. He adjusted the shims himself, and the AC has been ice cold for 2 years. Honda released a technical service bulletin acknowledging the issue, but never issued a recall. So if your warranty had expired, that cost was entirely on you. The fix is straightforward. The clutch plate is held by a central bolt with thin metal shims behind it, and removing a shim closes the gap. Check with a feeler gauge at multiple points around the circumference because wear can be uneven. This can be done at home without discharging the system if you have basic tools and some confidence. Just know that if the clutch material is severely worn, shimming is temporary, and closing the gap too far causes drag that kills the bearing and can damage the compressor. Trick 8 is the condenser water splash, and firefighters have been using it for years with nothing more than water. Your condenser sits behind the front grille, dumping heat from the refrigerant into outside air. At highway speed, ram air flows through it for free. At idle or in traffic, only the engine fan provides airflow, which is not nearly enough. The condenser heat soaks, pressures climb, and cooling drops, which is exactly why AC blows colder on the highway than in traffic. You will see in Trick 7 how your driving habits connect directly to this. Spray water on the condenser while the AC is running and the water evaporates off the hot metal almost instantly. That phase change from liquid to vapor absorbs massive heat, system pressure drops, and vents get noticeably colder within seconds. Firefighters pour water on idling truck condensers during breaks. Mechanics do it on lifts where there is no ram air. Use a gentle spray, avoid soaking wiring and sensors, and understand this masks the problem rather than fixing it. Your AC blows colder in rain for the same reason, because raindrops continuously hit the condenser and evaporate off it. Trick 7 is driving technique, connecting straight back to Trick 8. Highway speed rams air through the condenser. Stop and go kills it. If you have route options, continuous movement gives better cooling than a shorter route through congestion. The compressor runs off the engine belt, meaning hard acceleration, steep hills, and towing all pull power away from it. Modern cars temporarily cut AC during full throttle. Smooth, steady driving keeps the compressor engaged. So accelerating gently and coasting toward red lights translates directly into colder air. Prolonged idling starves the condenser. Park in shade, confirm your cooling fans work, and drive before noon or after 4 when you can. All free. Trick 6 changes the math completely. Everything so far manages heat after it enters the car. Trick 6 stops it from getting in. A car in the sun reaches 140 degrees inside. If your target is 72, that is nearly 70 degrees to drop. But if the cabin was only 100 when you opened the door, you have a 40-degree head start and are doing half the work. This is exactly why Trick 6 makes Trick 1 at the end so much more powerful, because the two stack together. The single most recommended modification across every forum and mechanic community I went through is ceramic window tint. A mechanic with 30 years in the trade said he has put ceramic tint on every car for 15 years, and nothing else comes close for comfort per dollar. Your windows work like a greenhouse. Sunlight passes through, hits interior surfaces, converts to heat, and gets trapped, pushing cabin past 140 even when outside is only 90. Regular dyed tint absorbs solar energy into the film itself, so the film gets hot and re-radiates heat both ways, which helps a little. Metallized tint bounces radiation better, but kills GPS, cell reception, and satellite radio, which makes it a deal breaker for most people. Ceramic tint blocks 50 to 70% of infrared radiation with no signal interference, full visibility, and UV protection. A tinted car next to an untinted one can be 20 to 30 degrees cooler inside, which means your AC has 30 fewer degrees to fight. Professional installation runs $300 to $800. Stick with 3M, Lumar, or Suntech. Check local tint laws first because ceramic can be applied light enough to stay legal while still blocking most heat. A reflective windshield sunshade for $20 to $30 reduces dashboard temperature by 30 to 50 degrees, but you have to actually use it. A sunshade sitting in the back seat does nothing. Park in shade. Think about where the sun will be when you return. Use remote start to pre-cool before you arrive, and throw a towel over the steering wheel and seats to prevent burns on leather. Now, Trick 5 might solve your entire problem in 1 second. Look at your climate control panel for the button labeled Eco, Econ, or a leaf icon. If it is lit up, that single button might be the entire reason your AC feels weak. And real quick, if this video is helping, hit the like button so other drivers can find it. Eco mode saves fuel by throttling the compressor. Variable displacement compressors get limited on refrigerant flow, while fixed compressors get longer off cycles. Either way, the AC runs below its actual capability. The fuel savings work out to 1 or 2 extra miles per gallon, which you never notice. What you notice is the cabin never gets cold enough, because in real heat, the compressor is held back while sunlight hammers the glass. Here is what really gets me. Some cars default to Eco mode every time you start the engine, and others remember your last setting. If you pressed it once 3 months ago and forgot, your AC has been throttled this entire summer. One owner on a forum wrote that they spent $400 at 2 different shops getting new refrigerant, a new cabin filter, and a new blend door actuator before their neighbor watched them start the car one day and asked why the eco light was on. They turned it off and had ice-cold air instantly. The frustration in that post was something else. For hybrids, eco mode preserves electric range. For EVs, full AC cuts driving range by 10 to 20%. So on a long trip, the trade-off makes sense. But driving locally, you can just turn it off. If your AC feels weak, check trick 5 first. One press, done. Trick 4 surprised me more than anything on this list because I have been doing it wrong my entire driving life, and I bet you have too. When most people set the temperature dial, they assume a lower number means the AC produces colder air. That is completely wrong. The evaporator inside your dashboard always produces air at roughly 35 to 45 degrees. It does not respond to the number you set. What you are actually controlling is a hidden flap called the blend door, which decides how much air flows across the cold evaporator and how much bypasses it through the heater core. At the coldest setting, the blend door sends everything through the evaporator for full cold. Set it to 72, and the blend door mixes ice-cold air with warm air from the heater core to hit that target. Your car is producing genuinely cold air and then intentionally reheating it before it reaches your face. You are paying for cold and receiving lukewarm on purpose. For max cooling, set the temperature all the way down. Whatever your car calls it, low, max cold, or the lowest number. Blend door fully open, zero warm air mixing in. That sounds like the cabin will freeze. Maybe, but here is the key. Control comfort with the fan speed, not the temperature dial. Too cold? Turn the fan down. Air stays ice cold, just less of it reaches you. Compare that to what most people do. Temperature at 72 with the fan on high, which delivers a huge volume of intentionally warmed air and produces a lukewarm breeze. Switch to the coldest setting with a medium fan, and you get genuinely cold air at a comfortable volume from the same system. Remember trick 4 when we get to trick 1, because the startup ritual is built on this exact principle. Auto mode prioritizes quiet operation over powerful cooling, so manual control beats it every time for rapid cooldown. Some cars have a max AC button that sets coldest temperature, high fan, recirculate, and face vents all at once. If yours has one, that is the shortcut. Trick 3 is the most underused button on your dashboard. Get it right and you cut cool down time nearly in half. Get it wrong and you fog up every window in the car. Recirculate mode is the button with the car icon and a curved arrow. Press it and the system stops pulling hot outside air and starts pulling cabin air instead, cooling it again and pushing it back out in a closed loop. Here is the math. Cabin has partially cooled to 85 degrees, but outside is still 105. Fresh air mode drops 105-degree air to 50, a 55-degree reduction every cycle. Recirculate cools 85-degree cabin air to 50, only 35 degrees. Dramatically less work per pass. That alone drops the thermal load by 50% or more. 15 minutes in fresh air mode becomes roughly 8 with recirculate, but you cannot leave it on indefinitely. Oxygen drops, carbon dioxide rises, and with passengers it gets uncomfortable in 30 to 60 minutes, bringing on drowsiness and headaches. Humidity builds and eventually fogs the windows. Run recirculate during the initial cooldown. Switch to fresh air once comfortable, and toggle every 10 to 15 minutes on long drives. Also, your best defense behind diesel exhaust or wildfire smoke, because recirculate seals the cabin from outside air until you are past the source. Some people believe trick 3 strains the AC, but that is completely backwards. It makes the system work less because cooling partially chilled air is far easier than cooling scorching outside air. Zero mechanical downside. Trick 2 makes me angry because it costs almost nothing and mechanics almost never mention it. Remember trick 9 and that $100 recharge the shop sold you? Same energy here. Your AC could have perfect refrigerant, compressor running fine, evaporator at 40 degrees, and cooling could still be pathetic, because somewhere between the evaporator and your face, air is being choked by something costing less than $20. The cabin air filter catches dust, pollen, leaves, and bugs before they reach the evaporator. It clogs over time, the blower works overtime pulling air through a wall of debris, and less cold air reaches you. The symptoms are weak airflow on the highest fan setting, a whistling sound from the vents, and mediocre cooling despite the compressor running fine. It is the easiest fix in car maintenance. The filter usually sits behind the glove box, under the dash, or near the base of the windshield. Most cars require no tools, and the swap takes 5 to 15 minutes. A new filter costs $15 to $30. Pull it out and hold it up to a light. Nothing comes through? That is your problem. The condenser is the second airflow killer. You already know it from trick 8, same part, different problem. Clean it with a garden hose from the backside toward the front. Never use a pressure washer because the aluminum fins bend easily, but if they are already bent, a fin comb straightens them. The evaporator runs cold and stays wet, which makes it paradise for mold. That musty smell when the AC first turns on is the evaporator. Spray antimicrobial cleaner through the cabin filter opening for $10 to $20 and run the fan without AC at the end of each drive to let the surface dry. The blower housing gets blocked by leaves and twigs, rodents build nests in ductwork if the car sits outdoors, and coins or pens lodge in vent openings. Before spending real money, work through these four first: cabin filter, condenser cleaning, evaporator mold, and blower with ducts. These four fix the majority of weak AC complaints. Any mechanic who recharges refrigerant without checking a $20 filter first is either lazy or counting on you not knowing the difference. And now trick 1. The $0 trick that changes how you get into a hot car for the rest of your life. This is not a setting or a button. This is a physical technique that flushes most of the heat out of your cabin before the AC even turns on. Most people sit down, crank AC to max, and sweat while the system fights a cabin baking at 140 to 160 degrees. But what if you flushed most of that heat before you even got in? Before you sit down, open the driver door and walk to the other side. Open and close the passenger door rapidly, 5 to 10 times, in a fanning motion. Each pump pushes hot air out through the open driver door and pulls cooler outside air in. This drops the cabin 20 to 30 degrees in under 60 seconds. Cabin at 150, outside at 100, door pumping brings it down to about 120, removing 2/3 of the excess heat mechanically. Zero cost. If you used trick 6 and had ceramic tint, the cabin was probably only 110 to start, so you are even further ahead. If you do not want to walk around, opening all 4 windows for 30 to 60 seconds gives you a passive version. Get in, coldest temperature just like trick 4 taught you. Fan on medium, not max. Floor vents, fresh air, windows open. Medium fan because the evaporator has not cooled yet. Running max fan just blows warm air faster. Start medium, let the evaporator build its cold, then crank it once you feel the temperature drop. Floor vents because hot air rises. Cold, dense air at floor level pushes remaining hot air up and out the open windows. After a minute or two, switch to face vents. Close windows in sequence. After 30 to 60 seconds when the vent air starts cooling, close the rear windows first, trapping cooled air in the back. After another 30 to 60, close the fronts, switch to recirculate mode as trick 3 taught you, and turn the fan to max. Genuinely cold air into a sealed cabin. Here is the full sequence. Door pump 5 to 10 times, coldest temp, medium fan, floor vents, fresh air, windows open. Drive. 30 to 60 seconds, close rears, bump fan. Another 30 to 60, close fronts, recirculate on, vents to face. Toggle fresh air every 10 to 15 minutes on long drives. 3 to 5 minutes from scorching to comfortable. Half the time of the old way. Less compressor strain, less fuel, and you eliminate the safety risk of driving overheated. That is trick 1, door pumping, floor vent physics, sequential window closing, and fan ramping. A complete startup sequence that most drivers have never been taught. No parts, no tools, no mechanic. And here is what makes it powerful. Every other trick feeds directly into it. Clean cabin filter from trick 2 means more air reaches you. Coldest setting from trick 4 means that air is actually cold. Recirculate from trick 3 seals the deal once the cabin is flushed. Ceramic tint from trick 6 means your starting temperature was already lower before you opened the door. The ritual works on its own. With the other 9 behind it, you are driving a completely different car. Which of these 10 are you trying first? And if you just realized your eco mode has been on this entire time, drop that in the comments. I have a feeling a lot of you are about to have a very satisfying button press. But here is the thing, none of these tricks matter if your compressor dies, and there is one habit most drivers repeat every single summer that quietly kills it. I made a full video on that, and it is right here on screen. Stay cool.